Okay, everyone. I didn't anticipate on the teaching being that long, but it was an important foundation to lay because everything that we've gone through today is going to be fundamental for next week's teaching, where we take what we've covered in the first two parts and how it applies to servant leadership. Because ultimately, some of you may be thinking, hey, but I'm not a servant leader. How does this apply to me? Oh, it does. Some of you are servant leaders in your marriage, men. Some of you are servant leaders in discipleship stables. Some of you are just the donkey that has gone before someone else. And in that instance, you're the donkey that's gone before with you're serving into a brother or sister. And so next week's discussion is going to be primarily testimony, actually, from Curtis and I. But it's exciting because, marriage, brotherhood, actual servant leadership, and ultimately where this is headed, because what is Messiah looking for in all of that, in all of us? We have the parable of the talents. You've been faithful with a little. Let me entrust you with much. How can he do that unless he's learned to trust you? And he knows, do we fear him? So this is why I've been laboring this, because of where it's headed. But I'm hoping people will understand it really is an important thing, and the foundation of it is brotherhood, sisterhood, and how we go about brotherhood and sisterhood will begin in the home. And so, yeah. You're there, Curtis. I see you.
I'm here. Yeah, no, it's just so fundamental, the things that, are part of the teaching today, and just reaching out to, and these fundamentals, they flow both ways from the discipleship tree, they flow, whatever comes out of Messiah is going to go out to the wider body, but it's also going to be a part of the marriage covenant. And what it does is it just locks everything together, and then you truly have the ecclesiastical three chord that's not easily broken, because it's always Messiah, right? So in our brotherhood, it's you, me, and Messiah, right? And you and Ruth in your marriage, it's you, Ruth, and Messiah. In Pip and I, it's me, Pip, and Messiah. Messiah, the common bond should be Messiah. He's the thread through it all, and that should go out right out to the wider community level. But it's just way less intimate. Someone just watches a teaching by you or I. They don't live any of this, haven't overcome anything. And it's just safer to hide behind the Torah or your Christianity and be a keyboard warrior, and it's like, okay, you don't really understand the journey or the price that was paid to even be serving, and so they'll often, and they're not even in a space where it's not about others yet. It's all about themselves. So they're not even really interested in asking. They're just interested in telling their emotional reaction, to something. It's like, well, okay, but you got to grow past that, brother and sister. You can't just live on your emotional reaction to things and people you don't even know. Once you start to actually do the journey, then suddenly it's like, Michael and I will get this a lot. Somebody will give some comment on a teaching, and they're writing it as if you've never chewed the or heard this before. And it's like, not only have we heard it before, but we've probably chewed the matter over 100 times and done it with the counsel of many. And you just feel like saying to that person, show me the fruit of your life. What discipleship have you lived in your so-called opinion or knowledge? What counsel have you really sought? What accountability have you actually had? And you just know, and it's often a grievous thing, because you just know they're alone. And they're alone because they've probably been hurt. And so while they're actually even lashing you, you're actually feeling for them. You're actually going, yeah, I know the space, You don't pop out of the womb teaching, speaking, or giving testimony like this. There's a price. There's a
And
price.
some of you in the community will have experienced this in your own version when you're walking or dealing with someone and you know what they need is some healthy discipleship, accountability, and you know you've got what they need. But who here has tried to control, convince, convert them to getting this thing that they desperately need, and then you watch it backfire horrifically in your hat, and you go, "What happened?" And that's one of the hardest things, actually, when you know you've got what that other person needs, but in their sovereignty, in their free will, they've chosen to not go there, and you kind of left in this place of, brother, sister, I want to help you. I really want, but nothing, you're not giving me anything to go with. Like, you've given me no rope to work with. And it's a tough position, but you know, you can't force, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink, because if you do, you'll drown it. And you fear Elohim enough to go, man, okay, whatever, oh.
Yeah, if anybody's tried to hold a horse's head underwater, see how that goes for you. It's just not a fun, you get kicked, and you get, and you whatever, it's just, yeah. And in all honesty, you just try to be for people, whether they're for you or not. Generally, people who aren't for you are not for you in ignorance. Like, it's not because they have an intimate understanding or knowledge or walk with you or anything like that. And often you look at the people that are really for people that don't live in a tested environment, don't live in a reverence environment. I've had to say to brothers, listen, you're so busy interested in telling me what you think on a doctrinal matter. Tell me about your home. Tell me about your marriage. Tell me about your kids. Share with me all the great fruit of your life. But no, it's just much safer for you to think that you can argue in some space of a little bit of knowledge on something. And you actually challenge people in that space. You show me. I've actually had to say to brothers, I'll put 100 brothers on the screen right now that'll give you testimony to my character, not to my perfection, not to the fact I'm not a work in progress. But they've walked long enough and in different environments and whatnot. I can put them on the screen and they'll tell you who I am. I don't need to. Can you do that for me, brother or sister? Can you actually give me the testimony of the fruit of your life? Or you just want to sit here and give me the emotional reaction of the so-called bit of knowledge you think you have or don't have? And it's not about being right or wrong. It's easy to, respect someone's view or knowledge on something. We've got to be much more interested in whether, who are you? We have a whole world that's being divided right now. Politically, we got people thinking they actually know who these political leaders are. Democrat, Republic, conservative, liberal, whatever. You don't have a clue who they are. But you're all going to be divided emotionally. Unless, of course, you think the mainstream media educating you on any single individual is somehow knowing them. It's ridiculous what we're seeing happen. People supporting people they don't know. Degrading, people they don't know. Cutting down people they don't know. Lifting up people they don't know. All because of some label. Political label. We're watching Rome do that. Okay, that's fine. That's Rome. They don't know any better. They just live politically, not biblically. And then you get those who claim to live biblically doing the exact same thing. And then they're doing it with each other. And you're just like, is this healthy? It's not healthy. You don't know who you're criticizing or uplifting. Let's start to actually walk with each other, get to know Messiah. And if you see Messiah in someone, value that. Love that. Not perfection, not your little performance treadmill, emotional treadmill that you'll put someone on. We'll talk about this more next week, but I promise you, No amount of knowledge or performance was Michael ever put on when we met. I wasn't interested in putting him on some performance treadmill or make sure that he's knowledgeable enough or agrees enough with my views doctrinally that somehow we're going to have a brotherhood. It's like, who are you?
And on the flip side, I'm not listening to Curtis because Curtis is the great prophet hidden on the hill, you know, getting downloads from the hand of God coming through from the clouds. It's like, no, he's saying, brother, this is where I got it right. This is where I got it wrong. Here's my testimony. Can it help you? That's literally how this ministry was built up.
Wisdom is an outcome of reverence in choosing Messiah, and that's often because you've had to overcome and because things didn't go right. If somebody has true wisdom and they're giving it to you, I'm telling you, there's a price to it. If somebody's coming to you telling you that they've got it all right, believe me, that's ridiculous. Are you even following? Like I say, I've literally, with some brothers, is what you just sort of think, well, man, Messiah needs to spend some more time with you because, you know, you got so much to offer him. Sounds brutal, doesn't it? Like, you know, I mean, it's, you know, but this is how people act. They think that their little bit of knowledge is somehow the character of Elohim. It's not even close. And even if they're technically correct, how they've gone about it is brutal. Yeah. And they make everyone else suffer around them, whether it be in their marriage covenant, to a discipleship environment, to a wider community. Everyone's going to suffer because they're sitting on the throne. One of the hardest things is not, you have to have love at a level for Messiah to serve, because it's easy to pin someone to the mat doctrinally and to crush them and make them feel like this. But to allow them to actually swing some punches while you don't actually punch back, that takes love. That takes fear of Elohim. Some of the things that you have to wear when you truly serve Elohim, from your brothers, your sisters, and those you're serving, it's going to take reverence of Yah to do it. Like you just can't. It's just, it's that place. And this is the whole, you know, dynamic we see with parents and children, or we should see with parents and children, where the mom and dad are going to take things from the children for their sake, not for the parents' sake. This child gets a chance to live long enough to actually realize maybe mom and dad had something to offer. But we treat each other religiously. We would be the proverbial parents where a child doesn't make it past the age of 3 because we incinerated them. Nobody's going to have any children. Now we start getting into the place. You know, what did Messiah say? Let the little ones come to me. Those that would cause one of these little ones to stumble. Be better to have a millstone thrown around their neck. What do you think he's talking about? It's actually allowing people to grow up and mature in the family of Elohim. There's a way weightier picture to this. We are in the religious world. Sorry, I'm going into next week. I won't do that. But it gets me going.
There you go. Guys and gals, you're getting a preview of next week. And the weightier matter of it, actually. Well, let's, I see there's a couple of hands up, so we'll go through that. Let's, Teresa, I see you've got your hand up. I've asked you to unmute there.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hello?
can. Hello.
Okay. So Mike, Shabbat Shalom. So can the reproofs of discipline come from Rome, or, what we perceive as Rome?
Wow. What? I'll answer it very quickly with this. Balaam needed a donkey to reprove him. Look, in an ideal situation, the ideal is that we walk in a community, and that within a community, there are those that we walk closer with. Again, this was modeled by Yeshua, and he had his 12 disciples. There were 3, arguably 4, that he was particularly close to. One of them he loved especially. We have Paul and Timothy. So that's the ideal situation. Unfortunately, due to the scattered nature of the body, and some people do not have community, like all of us here are very blessed because we do have a modern expression of what Messiah would want for his people, but some people don't have that. And, some of you, while you were experiencing your wilderness journey, may have received reproof through other means, whether it be situational, circumstantial. Could he have used a Roman in that thing? I would say it can happen, and I've experienced this myself. In fact, before I even met Curtis, I was working a Roman job. If you must know, I used to work at a gas station at some point. It knocked a lot of pride out of me ahead of me becoming a servant leader, because I had to serve people quite literally. And unbeknownst to me, I was holding myself in higher regard than those I served, because where I used to work was a very run down, lots of people exploiting the social security system so they didn't have to work. That was the town I worked in at this gas station. And long story short, there's me getting all prideful and arrogant and going, Father, what am I doing working this crummy job? What about, me leading and serving your people, blah, blah. And it's like he walloped me there and then. And I remember looking from outside the gas station into it and looking at my co-workers. And it was like the Father said to me, do you honestly think you're better than those people? I died for them too.
Tell them about the pen, Michael.
The pen. Oh, yeah, the pen. Oh, and that's downstairs in the other room. But in that moment, the Father was literally pointing at Romans going, boy, you need to think of yourself less highly. You're getting arrogant. Now, ironically, towards the end of my employment at that place, I was having to make another big decision. This was another one of my tests, actually, of my testimony. But Ruth and I were getting married, actually. We were going to get married, like literally a month or 2 down the road. Olive Branch has already begun. And as part of our decision, we had to decide where to move. And it looked like I was going to have to move up north to where my wife-to-be was living. And I didn't know what was going on. It felt like the sky was made of bronze. Prayers were bouncing off it. I wasn't getting answers. And I just remember there was a contractor coming in and you sign him in. Anyway, I looked down after signing in this contractor and he'd left this pen behind. Now, we had many contractors come in, and where I worked, pens were basically gold dust, because you could never find a pen. And I pick up this pen that the contractor has left behind, and it was a pen for a donkey sanctuary. And it was, I forget what the name of the place is called. The pen's in the other room. I've still got it to this day, because I remember picking this up and it said so-and-so donkey sanctuary with a picture of a donkey on it. And I just picked it up and I just knew that that was the Father's way of saying, Michael, it's okay. You've got this. You keep going as you think you're going. Discipleship is going to be a key part of this. Trust your discipleship, move forward. And where my discipleship had led me to that point is, and the situation and the circumstance was, I'm going to have to move up north, and the fellowship will be okay, because at that time I was moving further away distance-wise from the fellowship. And I would live there for a year and a bit before moving back and getting. But point being, the Father used a Roman contractor to leave a pen behind for me. And I picked up that pen and I just knew it was the Father's way of saying, it's okay. Put one step in front of the other. You'll be just fine. And so I've had the Father use Rome both to reprove me, but also to encourage me to keep moving forward. And so, back to your point, Teresa, the Father can even use a donkey. In the case of Balaam, he will use what's around you. The ideal is that we have what we have now and discipleship. Not everyone has that. When I had the donkey pen situation, I just had my international discipleship, and the olive branch had started, but it was in its infancy. So I didn't have that relationship with those at the olive branch that I did with my international discipleship. Like, I'd been walking with Curtis about 3 years when I got that pen. And so, but I've held on to it. In fact, it means so much to me that I brought it all the way from the UK to Canada, and it's in the downstairs office as a nice little reminder. Man, Curtis, I'd forgotten about that. I haven't been down in that room for a while.
Yeah, when I see it, I laugh because I remember that moment you phoning me and telling me. I laugh because you just think, it's just the hand of the Father. But did he use Rome to do it? Do you know, if you up the scale on this question, because I think it's a really neat question, just to give it, those who have done prison time or feed into prison ministries get this principle hugely. Because sometimes, absolutely, Rome has been used to break through into people's lives by being actually put in prison. Rome has absolutely been allowed to play a part of what Elohim's doing. And it's actually in prison where they have revisited those sorts of things. Or someone who serves into a prison ministry will hear the testimony of those people and how much Yah has worked with the Roman bondage and the system in order that people would come to a greater understanding of things. So I just use that as, a bigger, obvious way of going, he can use whatever he wants, and he'll often use Rome to either bring us to a place that we need to consider, what he's saying to us, or actually use them, to confirm, like the pen example and things like that. But I would say it's an overwhelming yes, but it's not, we don't seek Rome for fellowship and his wisdom. He uses everything at his disposal as an Elohim desires. And of course, Rome is a big part. In fact, we're in bondage so that we can learn the faith right now. If none of us were in bondage right now, I wonder how deep a lot of us would have sought. We've got the blessing of COVID on this screen with many people. That was bondage. Rome was used to get you to repent, to turn to you, to look deeper. You better believe it was. So, great question. Its answer is dynamic from an Elohim's position. he can use and does use anything he wishes, from the donkey to the pen to, the Roman bondage in its various aspects and applications and everything else. So it's a great question. It's an interesting question. The only caveat I'd put on that is not to seek intimacy in the sense of fellowship from that. That's not our actual faith walk. And so this is where we can get this confused, where we actually try to have fellowship with the darkness. Just the fact that the Father can use anything at his disposal. There's a difference between seeking the wisdom of Rome, because the wisdom of Rome, just because it can be used by the Father, doesn't often mean that it's any form of godly wisdom coming forth. So the fact he can use it doesn't mean that that's where we seek him. We don't seek him in Rome. We seek him in his house and that which is in repentance and his word and the ruach and those sorts of things. But yes, most certainly he's put his whole house in bondage using Rome to get through our thick donkey skulls. He uses all the politicians. They're all close to the faith right now. Yeah. There's all sorts of things going on, He could use our boss in Rome. He could use anything. So, I've been pulled over for a speeding ticket and got reminded of being a breaker of the law. And go, I wonder what the shadow picture of that is.
Yeah.
Couldn't find anybody in Rome to pay my ticket, though.
Or take the points. Let's go with Robert. Oh, sorry, Robert. I pressed the wrong button. I lowered your hand instead of asking you to unmute. Raise your hand again. Sorry about that, brother. Right, there we go. Let's try that again.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom.
I'm sitting here chuckling because your answer kind of leads into my question. Could you describe for me, without divulging any confidentiality, what does your weekly donkey stables look like?
Stuff flying everywhere. Punches, eyes, like...
It varies. Look, I always say to people, first of all, every separate discipleship group, while it's all discipleship at the heart, they all have a different flavor, I like to say. So DS1 has a different flavor to DS5, which has a different flavor to DS7, and so forth and so forth. But, I think what can be said for any discipleship, sometimes we go deep and revelation comes out. Sometimes it's more shooting the breeze and catching up. Sometimes it involves reproof and dealing with certain matters. Sometimes it's equipping a brother through a difficult situation. Sometimes it's exhorting, upbuilding. Sometimes, I never sit there and go, right, tonight we're going to do this. Sometimes things will be raised in the week. Hey, brothers, I've got this going on, or I've got this question, or can we go? There may be a bit of that, but I don't sit here planning what needs to come out in discipleship. And so you allow the Ruach to take hold of it. And so even at the DS1 level, we're not sitting there, constantly dealing with oversight matters. Sometimes it's just, hey, brother, I'm going through this. I know you can't fix me, but I just need to get some things off my chest. And the brother's just being there going, hey, either I know what you're going through, or I can only imagine what you're going through. It's one of them things, unless you've experienced it. People often ask me, so what do you guys get up to? I'm like, oh boy, how do I answer that? Or what does the protocol of a stable look like? I'm like, there's protocol, but it's not fixed. I've always found it really hard to explain what discipleship is. And it's almost like the Father has purposely done it in a way that unless you partake of it, you don't know. And once you know, you know. But anyone who's in discipleship will know what I'm saying when you try and describe to other people what you do, and as you're saying it, you think, oh man, am I really doing it justice? Because I know what I've experienced. I know how it's fed me. And I've never been able to convey in words truly what it's meant to me, other than just being able to say, hey, you've got to experience it, because once you've truly partook of it and you've shared in its fruit, it is life-changing, completely life-changing. But then to then try and put that into words, like, how do you quantify something that is actually spiritual? And if that thing is spiritual, by virtue, it means it has an eternal quality to it. How do you quantify that which has eternal values? You know, one last thing I'll say on this, and I'll hand it over to Curtis, but I've got this little saying that, and it doesn't always happen in a stable. Sometimes it just happens in that brotherhood space where you're talking to your brother. And I have what I call an eternal moment. And what I mean by that is sometimes the brother will say something and he's not even aware of what he's saying, what effect it's having on me. It's like whether it's answering a question I've had on the proverbial shelf and he's unaware that he's answering it, but you have these little moments where that moment affects you at the heart level and at the soul level so much that it impacts on your walk. And because it's impacted on your walk at the heart and soul level, it shapes Curtis and I often say nothing's coming out of the time domain except a covenant written on the heart. And in those little eternal moments, I know that what I've experienced is something that's going to help me have that covenant written on my heart. That moment matters because even though it happened in the time domain, it's of eternal consequence to me. And so in stable, whether that be in stable, whether it be in brotherhood, whether it be between my wife and I, there's these little moments that I call eternal moments. And stable doesn't always have an eternal moment in it, but it is still life-changing. Not everything is deep. Sometimes it's commiserating. Sometimes it's exhorting. Sometimes it's just sharing. Sometimes it's equipping. Sometimes it's labor in the tilling the ground aspect. But sometimes, like what I will say, not only has it changed my life, but it shaped my very walk, and that is eternal for me. Curtis.
Yeah. I think everything you're describing is actually the overcoming journey. In Rome, you have clubs, or you become a part of something or a member of something or whatever else it is. And you can have fellowship around that and whatever it is, or in a work situation or all that kind of thing. And then that can have relational value. But the overcoming journey is generally, that's not where it's found. The overcoming journey is where you're actually willing to have vulnerability. And so a true discipleship environment has all the things Michael just mentioned, but they're determined by the journey. In other words, in the end, you can't come to a discipleship environment, it's about me. Can you go through matters of doctrine, let's say? Absolutely. But it's not the focus. And suddenly, when it's not about you that week, you've grown enough in your love and maturity in Messiah for that brother, which it may be about. And so what happens is you're not going there going, well, I didn't get anything out of this tonight. Well, it wasn't about you tonight. And you need to grow up and figure that out. It was actually about you feeding into another brother and caring and learning how it not to be about you. And in fact, Yah may orchestrate the next 6 months where it's not about you, just so that aspect of you can be exposed. Well, I'm out of here. I expected a Bible study. Well, then go find a Bible study. But you go through the overcoming journey, you'll have to face matters of doctrine where you will learn revelational understanding. True revelation, not revelation as in magic poof moments, actual revelation of getting in, because the reason why you're looking at that truth is based on love for one another, not based on I'm seeking knowledge so I can be smart in some area or think I am. You see, we've treated, again, I don't want to risk getting into next week, but it's such a good question. In the servant leadership position, because you got two positions you can take. You either learn how to love that which you're serving, or you will just simply share what you know with what you're serving. Well, what you know is not impressive to Messiah. He's certainly not going to learn anything from you when you stand in front of him. We're going to have access to all information moving forward. So why were you needed again? The only thing that needs your so-called, you're the wonderful master of everything in any given moment. If you come into a true discipleship environment, you'll quickly find out. None of us here need your knowledge, brother, sister, or whatever you think you know, whatever it is. What we need is to know you and you to want to know us, and then we'll actually grow in love. And guess what? We're going to have to overcome matters together, which is going to require understanding some truth within doctrinal understandings, correction, reproof, edification. There's things that the Father has taught us, which we've learned to understand, and we've got to learn how to share that and how to receive it, and how to seek that truth together and all that. All that's overcoming. None of it is about seeking something for our own agenda. And so many times I've seen people go, I want discipleship. I want to say, no, you don't. You want to sit there and argue in a Bible study. Well, go find one. There's people here that actually need to journey with others that never walk alone. They need to overcome. They may have a real issue with maybe dealing with a daughter or son, maybe in their marriage, maybe with their own family, their Roman family, whatever it is. Do you care? Can we learn to care? And what is the wisdom of the truth we so-called uphold and want to know? What then, how does that translate to something practical in that, man or woman's life? What good is the knowledge of the design of men and women if you actually don't apply it? If it's one thing knowing something, it's quite another applying something. Well, I know that learning's easy bit. That's the easy bit. Applying something of what I know, that's when you kind of need a little bit of help, a little bit of wisdom, maybe a little bit of testimony, maybe a little bit of encouragement, maybe a little bit of reproof or correction. It's taking what we know and translating it into the witness. And this is why this series is, the witness of the test. It's, again, if we can get to the place that Messiah patterned, we get access to more knowledge. And this is what a lot of people, I've seen people, they just try and study. And honestly, they're just never coming to anything useful, certainly don't apply it to their lives. And I have seen those brothers who, honestly, they would struggle to read more than 2 verses of the word. Yet in a discipleship environment, they are hearing it, they are living it, they're being given that truth. It's translating in a living way. We've had printed scripture for the last 500 years. You'd wonder what we were doing before then. Oh, we needed the Ruach. Do you know we use a lot of how we do our modern Western thinking as every possible way of eliminating the Ruach in our life and discipleship? It's just amazing, and we've made Gnosticism and applying it to the word itself as the journey versus actually seeking Him. And what happens is in our Gnosticism, it actually puffs up. It breeds pride. It breeds all these sorts of things. And one of the hardest things is not actually living in that safe space. Knowledge is easy. Applying knowledge that's a very different place. And if we learn to apply truth, then we're going to have to get into a place where we learn trust once again, where we can be vulnerable, but we learn to do it wisely. And the pursuit is Him. It's not, I get to know something. Most people right now in the faith and the body are just simply going from well to well, teaching to teaching, church to church, synagogue to synagogue, fellowship to fellowship, movement to movement. And all they're trying to do is just gain more knowledge, never applying it in their lives, and most certainly not in a wise way. And then ultimately, if it's not wise, it won't be loving. And so how do we actually do this? Well, how about an environment where Michael can vomit if he has to one night? I've got this doctrinal matter I've got to go, yet my brother's going through a hard time and he needs to vomit. Oh, what? We're going to make it all about Michael's vomit tonight? Yes, we are. And then we're going to actually till it. And then we're actually going to see some good fruit grow from it. Well, that's not what I'm here for. Okay. You're not ready for this yet then, brother, because it's going to be about the others in front of you now. Or we live in the religious space. It's all about us. And if I don't get what I want out of it, then I'm out of here. because life's about me. And that's the problem, brother or sister. It's always been just about you. It's about you and your marriage, with your kids, with your fellowship, with your work life, with everything, because it's all about you. And a discipleship environment is going to put you into a space, if you can hang in there, where it's going to start to become about others. And once life starts to become about others, we start to get the heart of the Messiah. Because guess what happens? If life's about others to you showing up there, guess what it is to them? If life becomes to me about what Michael's going through as a brother and sharing one another's burdens, guess what it is for him? I didn't have to tell him to listen. I didn't have to convince him he should. He's actually showing up on Monday going, are you all right? What's going on? How can I feed into this? How can I do that? You see, it's automatically received. It's never demanded. I've experienced discipleship feeding into my life, and never ever showed up that night, even remotely thinking that it was about something I was going to raise, and was fed so much that evening, I didn't even realize what I needed. Other times you've come going, I'd really like to deal with this matter, and none of the evening or the fellowship gathering was about that matter. But what it was about enriched my life so greatly, as long as I could win this little thing going on in my brain. If we truly, truly can be Ruach led and make it about each other, we will learn, we will grow, and the things that we need or want to seek and understand, we will get the opportunity to do it, not even more, but at a much deeper level. But if we make it the agenda, and this is the what's happened in a lot of the Western Gnosticism, particularly in the Christian journey, where it's become a Bible study. And then we're wondering why we've got all this bad fruit going on. And it's like, wow, you think I'm here to fix you, Michael? I actually told him this. What? What about me? I need to be fixed. Who needs to be fixed first? And who's the best fix to be fixed by anyway? It's funny when I have people come to me and they might be maybe struggling or working through matters of marriage. One of the first things I'll say to them is, I don't believe in marriage counseling. It's a ruse. And they both got that look on their face. I did this with Michael and Ruth, by the way. Both got that look on their face. Well, then why are we here? And then you ask the question. I bet you're wondering why you're here now. So let's find out. And then you start to get into the things that matter. You know, are you in repentance? Do you have a reverence for Elohim? What's the point of me sharing truth and understanding of all of this? If you're not in repentance, you don't fear Elohim, and all you want is somebody to come and fix you. Well, here's Rome. Here's your counseling. I'll charge you this amount of money for these hours that I counseled you. And here's a bottle of pills. Off you go. And this is what it's turned into. Counseling and pills. Are you kidding me? And then we're doing it. All these people of the so-called faith, counseling and pills, counseling and pills, counseling and pills. How many pills and how much counseling do we actually need? How about some repentance and some reverence and the love of a brother and a sister? Because now we're going to get into the overcoming. And the overcoming is truly what discipleship is about. It's the overcoming journey. It's the overcoming gathering. But if we make it about us, Robert, if every week I get together stable, it's like, it's all about me tonight. It's not about any of them. And they're all doing that. What do we have when we gather? And this is what happens. And you see it all the time. And those who can't last in a discipleship environment is truly, sadly, is self. It's actually about them. And it's the only reason why they were ever there. Now, should we feel guilty because we go to discipleship because it's about self and we know that we need help in our lives? No, but we need to last the process to realize it isn't all about me. It's a body. I don't think going into a discipleship environment and saying there is no reason why I came here, it had nothing to do with me, it was all about everyone else, that's a lie. We all do things selfishly. But what we can do is go into an environment where we learn that it's not all about self. And if we can hack that out, we start to overcome. And if we start to overcome, we start to see good fruit. It's a great question. What does it look like? There's 1,000 different things. If I ask somebody, what does a marriage covenant look like? How do you answer that? How do you answer that in a whole body sense? But what I can tell you is that he's the same rock in every discipleship environment if it truly becomes the real thing. It's the same. The truth is the truth is the truth. And his love and overcoming can occur. And I'll tell you what, I have seen men overcome in my discipleship environment. I've seen Michael overcome, and the praise goes to Messiah. The only question Messiah was looking at was, Curtis, are you willing to walk with him until he does? Can you learn to love him until he does? His sovereign choice is, can he stick around until I learn to love him until he does? Okay. And this is sort of what starts to happen. But I'll tell you what, if you think you can go into a true discipleship environment and not have vomit, then you're the parents that think you can have a baby and not have vomit. You're in for a shock. It's okay. I get servant leaders sometimes phone up and go, oh my goodness, it went so bad last night. And they tell me about it. And I go, it sounds fantastic. And they're like, what? I go, it sounds to me like you're getting somewhere. But can we put love and forgiveness and all these things into that equation? Because sometimes, and especially with vomit looks different with men and women, but sometimes with the men, oh my goodness. You can just get spiritual vomit and chunks of it spewed out all over your face, and then you got to go. You're wiping it off your face and going, okay, I got to love this brother right now. Well, how does that look? Well, I don't like him right now. He sounds like a doofus. But if you can love the doofus, and if you can actually love him, despite the fact that you don't like the way he said it, what he said, and how he said it, suddenly you get back to it, because the whole like thing changes, right? Liking and unliking someone, that just changes, with wherever we're going. Love, that's supposed to be the thing that actually prevails. And love will always get you back to the like space. Emotions will always take you out of it.
Man, that was rich. That was rich. I know that all the servant leaders would be like, yes, in those partaking.
Good question, though.
Yeah, fantastic.
What does it look like? Wow. Go live it. Find out.
Well, brother, last words.
Well, let's keep going. We have a opportunity, as I'd said before, to not have, victory. Snatching defeat from the claws or the jaws of victory. We've got an opportunity to keep going with this and really working through these matters. Because if we do, and next week we'll touch on some things, it's very important as why, these things are a follow-up to the Fear of Elohim series. Just know that what's coming for all of us, if we're to believe the promises of Messiah, is the greatest in the kingdom is that which will ultimately serve. And we don't get to serve our way. We have to learn how to do it his way. And if that's what he's looking for in the age to come, then we've got a great, great opportunity to have conversations most sadly in the body are not having right now. He's not looking for our knowledge. He's not looking for my knowledge. He's not looking for Michael's knowledge. He's not impressed by it. He doesn't need it. In the age to come, we'll have access to all knowledge. He's not looking for what the shape of the earth is or how to pronounce his name. He's not looking for, your understanding of the very prophecies he fulfilled and put in plan and set in place. He's not looking for your Hebraic or Greek understanding of the translation of the word. What's he looking for? He's going to need to look and see that we are the character of that which he wants to sit beside him and serve. Hear what Michael said today. What the Fear of Elohim series is, hear what will be said next week. It will be brutally honest, but it will be in testimony. And one of the greatest things about testimony is you don't get to point the finger at everyone else. You get to point the finger at yourself. And then every once in a while you find a brother or sister that allow you to point the finger at each other. Michael and I can do that next week.
Well, everyone, be blessed. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Let's finish up with the Hebrew blessing. Yah will bless you, and he will guard you. Yah will shine his countenance upon you and be gracious to you. Yah will turn his countenance toward you, and he will grant you shalom. Everyone, looking forward to seeing you all next week. Yah willing, and let's keep on keeping on. And until then, thank you for honoring us with being able to serve into you. Shalom.
God shalom, everyone.